Thank you. Let me hold on. Let me reframe what I think is going on and where I want us to look at it. So there, if you notice what has been going on in the Middle East, there are movements to have peace with Israel. Almost all the countries there, and people are complaining that they basically are turning their backs on the Palestinians by making peace with Israel. So there are people who are now suggesting that what we just saw was an effort by the Palestinians to remind their fellow, their people that we're still here. Because by taking this action under Netanyahu, it doesn't even matter who is the prime minister, but by taking it under Netanyahu, they were looking for it. And they know that nothing will stop Netanyahu from reacting in a way that they hope it will get to the point where people will begin to say, oh, this is not good and this is terrible. This is, and it's, I don't know what the Americans are saying. I just haven't followed much, but I know what they normally say is we give you a window, 24 hours or 48 hours to react, take care of things. We are not going to criticize you. So within this period, they will react, and if they go over, this is how they always describe it. If it goes to an excess reaction, if it's not proportional, we don't know what that means. But then what will happen is that there will be a change of opinion. A lot of people in the Middle East will start feeling bad. In Egypt, for instance, we read this morning on BBC that a police officer decided to shoot Israeli tourists because of what was going on in Palestine, in Israel, between Hamas and Israelis. So we are going to see some reactions across Africa as a result of what's happening now. And it may even get to Nigeria. Our president reacted, and the foreign ministry issued a statement saying that Nigeria is calling for that they should not escalate this situation. Exactly the same thing that the Pope said. But there's an interesting reaction too from China. China is saying this is why we are saying there should be a state of Palestine so that we know who to hold responsible for something like this. So the question we want to ask is, one, are the Palestinians at a point where the only option they have is violence to make any progress for their people? Is what Israel is pushing, is that sustainable? Is it possible to keep people down forever? Is that sustainable? If being able that Palestinians were able to pull this off, the question again is, Israel penetrated their territory. We thought that Israel had control, knew what was going on. How did this happen? I mean, that they didn't even know they had this capability. It's shocking to Israel. If they had to take control, then there's another question of if they have the Palestinian state, eventually, 20 years from now, could they do something like this? So there's a lot of questions that we need to unpack. And again, when you're approaching this topic, I want to also ask you to think about this. Are you approaching this because you're a Christian? Because I hear a lot of people who look at this from that perspective, whatever the Bible told you, or we're in Sunday school now, what the Bible told you and who owns the land and whatever. And are we concerned that there is injustice to a people there in not having two states? And then we can bring it home to people who are looking for their own territories in Nigeria. The Yoruba group, the Biafran group, and the states. Because here you have a state in control of this territory, which is Israel, reacting this way. And are you thinking, because that will change your position now. I know a lot of people here who are thinking, as I'm Christian, I'm supporting Israel. But if you flip it and say, these Palestinians are trying to get their own state, okay? Then you are thinking you are Biafran. And you now think, if this is happening, if the Nigerian government decides, and they're almost there because they are bombing some houses in the east, if they decide to use this kind of power to say you are not going anywhere, can you think